This is a great event that Aaron puts on. I get to travel around the world and see different events and participate in different events. I can say that, Aaron, I want to thank you. You've put on a world-class event for the last couple of days, and we've enjoyed being here, and we hope to work with you again. Also, for the sponsors, this is not possible, and most importantly, you guys in the seats. Without you being here, although there may be tons of you here, the quality, not the quantity. So I'm excited to be speaking with you guys and talking with you today about what I'm going to talk about. So really quick, before I hop in, a quick show of hands. I'm not going to make you stand up and get in the group, but I'm not that cool. And so in the audience, who in the audience is a sales leader or a sales manager? And how many people in the audience are in the sales force? They're actively selling. Okay, and there's a couple hands that didn't go up, so that leaves you as something else, other, right? How many people are own a business or small business owner or entrepreneur? Okay. The last question I have is, how many people in the room are entrepreneurs? They consider themselves an entrepreneur. That's great. Only one. It's okay. This is still for you. And I ask that because as we get into what I'm going to talk about is something that's very interesting, a dilemma that's happening in corporate America. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about what it means when we say the word entrepreneur, when we say the word entrepreneurship. And the third thing we're going to talk about is the anatomy of entrepreneurship, the anatomy of this thing I call an intrapreneur. Okay? And so we're going to talk about that as the three things today. So without getting any further, thank you for the introduction. My name is Michael Melfi. I am an attorney. Don't hold it against me. I do tend to talk fast, and usually when I travel around the country, they tell me I talk too fast. But when I'm in New York, I think I can talk fast because you guys all talk fast, so we're good. So I have authored 4 books. My books are mainly around empowering entrepreneurs, working with entrepreneurs. Some of them are legal related. Other ones have to do with social media, crowdfunding, and my most recent one was about entrepreneurship. I've been doing a lot of guest blogging. We have a podcast. We do a lot of things to get content out there and information out there to entrepreneurs on various channels. Lots of contact marketing. The other thing that I've done is we founded TrepsNest. TrepsNest is a virtual platform for entrepreneurs to go to. We did that in conjunction with the company I'm here with today, and I'm the entrepreneur resident for the National Association of Sales Professionals. The National Association of Sales Professionals, as the name says, is an association for sales professionals. We provide a membership and a community for sales professionals, and we are also able to offer programming that helps in the transformation. And a lot of the things I talk about from an entrepreneurial standpoint today is about how you go from one level to the next, how you create more success in your sales career. So that's the National Association of Sales Professionals. Our companies together have worked with multiple companies around the United States and global companies. We've worked with them in the areas of culture, sales, and leadership. We work with them in those areas and really talk about how we can improve, how we can step those to the next level. So when we start talking about corporations, and I talk about this next part, the dichotomy that exists, the struggle, it's based on our experiences of being entrepreneurs and then walking into corporations and dealing with them. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the corporate America dilemma. And while most people in the room kind of show of hands said they were small business owners, there is a dilemma. And what that is for those people, and if you do have employees, you should be aware of this, 72% want to quit their job to be entirely independent. Now, while you may only have 1 or 2 employees, and it's not a big deal for you, if you were sitting there and you were in corporate America and you were managing 500, 1,000 people in an organization, that's a staggering number. Almost 3/4 of your people have no interest in being there. Right? The next one, 61% of people say they'd like to quit their job in the next 2 years. So if you looked to your left or right, anytime you are sitting in a public place, if you're not planning on quitting what you're doing, the people on your left and right are planning on exiting whatever they're doing in the next 2 years. So something to think about. And so that is the mentality of people that are out there working in a job right now. And so corporate America, or people running businesses, are facing an identity crisis. They're looking for people who are creative. They're looking for people who are entrepreneurial. Yet the cultures in these environments are not set up. They're set up to desensitize this creativity and the entrepreneurialism. And that's what we're going to talk about today is how do you maintain that entrepreneurialism? How do you overcome that struggle? Because it's a dichotomy. We got to meet shareholder profitability, right? We have to deal with our contingencies. We got to do what's right. But how do we keep that cool Zappos type environment? How do we create those companies, those cultures? How do we build that in such a way that we can continue to grow the company? At the end of the day, how do we focus on this entrepreneurialism in the corporations? You see, because they're not synonymous, entrepreneurship and corporate America, that you don't normally hear that. In fact, this may be one of the first times you've heard someone get on stage and try to talk about that. strictly because of my background of working with clients and with our clients we've worked with, we've been able to dance in the world of entrepreneurship and in the world of corporate America. There's one that I like more than the other, but I'll let you guess which one that is. So this idea, this concept of intrapreneurship is the idea that an individual in an organization, in an association, can be an entrepreneur still, even though they are not an entrepreneur in the normal sense. So at the end of the day, one thing that's really interesting to think about is that in a recent survey by Odesk, 90% of people think entrepreneurship is a mindset. It's not owning a business. So while a lot of us in here own a business, a lot of people that want to work with us or for us are entrepreneurial in nature. They never want to take the risk that you guys took. They never want to take the risk that he took, They don't want to take that risk, but they do love the excitement of entrepreneurialism. And so when you can create that type of culture, that type of environment in your corporate structure, you're going to get more productivity, you're going to get more growth, you're going to get more happiness from the people that you're working with. Because at the end of the day, these people have an identity. These people are believing they're working in a corporate environment. They're trying to deliver. They're trying to produce results. We're more than likely sending them to a nicer office. We're sending them to a boardroom to work in. And for most of us entrepreneurs, this is what our office looks like. It's the corner office. It's one of my favorite places to be. It's usually a coffee shop somewhere in America. People say, where do you love to work from? And I'm like, any really nice coffee shop in America. Now, for someone in corporate America, they don't quite have that luxury. They do end up in places like this, and there's nothing wrong with that. But how do they still ultimately be the best performer? How do they still, are they able to achieve those results that they're really looking for? How are they able to have entrepreneurship in that corporate type environment? So the next thing we're going to talk about is this entrepreneurship, this concept that I keep bringing up, entrepreneurship. And so we're all in the room. So at this point, anyone, you could probably come up here and start to talk about it or share with us what entrepreneurship is. So we did a lot of studying, and this is our take on entrepreneurship. We've did a lot of research, my co-founder Rod and myself, we've done a lot looking into what does this mean when you say, I am an entrepreneur. I'm going to be entrepreneurial. What does that really mean? Well, the best thing I could come up with to start with is we're at a digital conference, a sales summit that's at a digital conference. So how many people in the room are familiar with the term a growth hacker? Has anyone ever heard that term? A few people in the room? The idea of a growth hacker is it's typically someone who has, or a team that has development experience, and a team that has a marketing experience, and they come together to marry in what we talk about and call a growth hacking experience. The two previous speakers in some ways alluded to growth hacking. Growth hacking is the new cool term they're talking about in Silicon Valley. I see a nod here. And so it's just now starting to catch on. You'll start seeing more and more people talk about growth hacking. I kind of chuckled the first time I read the definition of growth hacking, which was someone's supposed to go out and try something, dealing with uncertainty, take a risk, see how it goes, and if it works, keep doing it. If not, stop and try something else. Paraphrasing a little bit. To me, that sounds like entrepreneurship, right? We're like, okay, what's new here, folks, right? But in the world of social media, in the world of digital marketing, so often people are trying something and they just keep doing it. Or in advertising, we just keep dumping more and more money on it, right? Big marketing dollars will say, well, just keep dumping money into those keywords. It'll eventually work out. You'll eventually get the traffic. Keep attending this. Keep sponsoring that at a very high level. The concept of growth hacking, again, it's something that's very entrepreneurial. It says, you know what? I'm going to place X amount of dollars here, or I'm going to take this action one time, and I'm going to measure what happens, and then I come back and do it again. And so for a digital conference, I thought this was a very good example of being a growth hacker, because at the end of the day, a growth hacker is a mindset. I just read a great book by Ron Holloway about it, and the idea is that you're going to go out and you're going to take a risk. There is a big chance whatever you're going to do that you're as a growth hacker is not going to work out. But in the failure is the success. And that's what really being an entrepreneur we talk about is the ability to fail, the ability to overcome obstacles. And so, in this research we did, we found a couple interesting articles. One was from Inc. magazine that talked about that entrepreneurs are passionate. Entrepreneurs take calculated risks. They're optimistic about possibilities. They seek constant improvement. And above all, they can execute. Now, you've each acknowledged that you're an entrepreneur. If you had to think to yourself, do you find that you're passionate about what you do? Do you find you're willing to take risks in what you do? Are you willing to be optimistic, positively optimistic about the possibilities? Are you constantly seeking improvement, and are you constantly executing, right? And so those aren't things that you don't have to own a business to be this. And that's one of the things when we're going to touch on entrepreneurship and being inside an organization or being part of an organization, you can be in an organization or you can have employees that have some of these same characteristics. They will help you grow your business tremendously. Maybe it's a vendor. That's the real strength. If you can find a vendor that is passionate about your business, is willing to take risks with you, is willing to be optimistic, improvement, and always executing, that's a great vendor. You know, we look at Forbes magazine, and in the Forbes magazine, they identified 4 areas that entrepreneurs excel in. Business knowledge is one of them. They're constantly improving. They're understanding customers. There's business strategy. They're outcome focused. Again, most of these are probably things that you can relate to being entrepreneurs and being small business owners. The other side of it is business development. They're great at sales. They have great relationships. This is a sales summit. So being an entrepreneur, there's a lot of sales. There's a very close connection there. Rick and I talk a lot about what's the difference between business development and sales. How does a salesperson versus an entrepreneur, what's their anatomy? And Rick, who's here with the National Association of Sales Professionals with me, we talk a lot about that and what does that look like. And Rick's going to be speaking in another couple hours more about what it takes to be successful in sales. And the last thing is the mindset. It's the ability to be a leader. It's the ability to be passionate. It's the ability to be internally motivated. These are the kind of things that it takes to be successful as an entrepreneur. Again, entrepreneurship is a mindset. Your mindset is your identity. You say, Michael, what does that mean? Hold on. I had you at entrepreneurship. I'm an entrepreneur. But what does that mean? That's my identity. So when we talk about identity, we talk about characteristics. We talk about the mindset and habits that we have as entrepreneurs. And so I'm speaking to us because we have these. If I were speaking to corporate America, this would be probably an eye-opener for most of them because they haven't had this experience. And when we talk about entrepreneurship, there's those people in there. So with an entrepreneur, these are the things that help you push through. These are the things that get you out of bed in the morning when you don't want to get out of bed. These are the things that help you overcome and face those risks and those obstacles. There are characteristics like being driven by outcome, identifying with ideal beliefs, creating effective habits, have internal focus, and the ability to deal with uncertainty. I touch on this one a lot when we talk about the concept of entrepreneurship or intrapreneurship, and that whole thing of that growth hacker. You do something, you try it out, and if it doesn't work, that failure was really the success because you know not to do it again. So many people say, I failed, I'm done. Okay, I'm done. Pack it up, I'm done. I'm not going to do it anymore. But salespeople do that all the time. Does anyone know the average number of times it takes to close a sale? Anyone? 12? Okay, anyone else? It's not that high, but it's close. 10? Anyone else? 9? We're going to keep going. 6? The 80% of sales are made after the 5th time. So after you've talked to someone 5 times, after you've failed them 5 times, you're more likely to be successful with your sale. So as an entrepreneur, being entrepreneurial, are you prepared for someone to say no to you 6 times before you get them as a client? That could be an email, a phone call, maybe a text message. It could be some other form of communication. Maybe you do old-fashioned snail mail, mail them a letter. Maybe you run some targeted ads towards them. That's only 5 right there, and I feel pretty exhausted if I did all 5 of those things. So how are you able to deal with that uncertainty, that rejection, that failure to overcome that? And that's one thing that I love to ask. What would you do if you could not fail? I'm going to ask that again because it's such a powerful question to people in the room. What would you do if you could not fail? When you got up this morning, how many people asked themselves that? Did anyone? It even feels kind of weird to hear me ask you that, right? You're like, just go to the next slide. I don't want to talk about that, right? Because there's such a stigma around failing, right? There's such a stigma around that as an entrepreneur. But, being able to answer these questions, to have these characteristics, allows you to get through what would I do if I could not fail. Because if you're driven by outcomes, you're focused on the outcome, not the failure. If you have the ideal beliefs, it really doesn't make a difference if you're going to fail or not. If you believe in something long after, you're going to keep going. If you have effective habits, if you get up every morning, you're doing the right things, taking the right actions, you're going to get through that failure stigma. If you're internally focused, if you know in your gut what you're doing is making a difference in your customers, it's going to make a difference. And that dealing with uncertainty, i.e. failure. So really, I always ask people that, what would you do if you could not fail? It's my favorite part of every presentation I give. It leaves everyone a little uncomfortable, but I hope tomorrow and a week from now and a month from now, you think about that question again. What would you do if you could not fail? How would you change your business? How would you change what you're doing? This question is growth hacking your business. So that's the part about entrepreneurship, and probably that resonates a lot with the people in this room, because I think everyone pretty much raised their hand and said they were an entrepreneur in some kind. So maybe that was review for some of you guys. But that is our take on entrepreneurship. And we talked a little bit about that corporate dilemma. So now what happens when you got this corporate mentality, this corporate culture, and you have this entrepreneurship, which, does everyone agree for the most part what I just shared is a good synopsis of entrepreneurship? Heads nodding? Okay. So now what happens when we put those two together and put them in a blender and hit blend? Any ideas? Okay, none. I'll just hop into it. So you have the anatomy of an entrepreneur. So what does that mean? What does intrapreneurship really mean? Does anyone have an idea? Anyone heard that word before? Good, because I made it up. No. So the idea of intrapreneurship is the idea of someone inside an organization. For the sake of this audience here, is there anyone from corporate America in the audience? But we all have small businesses that have either employees, independent contractors, or we have vendors that work for us in some capacity. Is that fair? Some people? So this is a concept that, while it applies to corporate America, where you have people punching clocks, people showing up 9 to 5, think of it from that mentality. But I would challenge each person in the room to put the lens on and look at, okay, I am working with an independent contractor. I'm working with a new hire in my organization. I'm working with a vendor. How do I get them to have the same passion? How do I get them to have the same, be willing to take the same risk? How do I get them to engage at the level that I'm at? Because at the end of the day, anyone ever felt like I care more about what's going on than everyone else in the room right now? Anyone ever had that feeling as a business owner or as the entrepreneur? Like, I just don't understand why, insert whoever, is not doing this, right? We've all done it at some point. Like, the solution is crystal clear to us, but to that person, it's not. And I would challenge you to say it's more of a mindset. They're maybe not bought in at the same level that you are. At the end of the day, this is your vision. You're the visionary. You're the entrepreneur there. If they wanted to be an entrepreneur, they would have a competing business with you. So it's good. It's actually to your benefit that they're not, and they want to be there. But now the real challenge is how do you meet them where they're at, not they meet you where you're at. Does that make sense to everyone? It's not about meeting someone where, it's not about them meeting you where they are. Like, hey, come over here. You got to go over to them. You got to walk over to where they are. You need them to help get to where you want to go. And once you get them, you can now take them with you on the journey. That's the concept of intrapreneurship. And again, we talked about the stigma. It's not. The identity of an entrepreneur is really that same thing. It's a set of characteristics. It's all in the areas of mindset and habit. They help to push, whether it be our employees, whether it be our independent contractors, whether it be our vendors, to push them through challenges and difficulties of operating in a corporate environment while maintaining that sense of vision, empowerment, and drive. So how do you keep that sense of vision, empowerment, and drive in those people? Because to a lot of people, life comes at them like this, a brick wall. How do you overcome that? Right? Has anyone ever had a brick wall in their life? Maybe you had one today. Anyone have one today already? I did. Right? But what do? We usually either stop, or it sits in our inbox as something we don't want to deal with right now, right? Or it's the meeting that we just edit and then move to next week, right? Those are all things that happen. It's the phone call you just keep on that to-do list that you don't want to do, or the document that you're like, I'm going to get to it. I know it's due next Thursday, so Wednesday night I'm going to start working on it, right? And that's when you're going to start, because it's that obstacle you don't want to deal with. And what I would challenge you and challenge your team to do is how do you move through this or around it? Because there's a lot of ways. Obvious one being walk around it, but let's just assume that wall's bigger. You could dig a hole underneath it to get it through it. That same obstacle could be climbed over. That same obstacle could be just blown up and gone through. As the passionate entrepreneur, as the business owner, you're going to think about those ways to overcome those obstacles. And sometimes you're even going to be challenged and you're not going to. That's why we have programs like the ones we created, is how to move through those. But for your team, for your employees, for your vendors you work with, if you're having a difficult time with stuff, they're going to have 10 times a difficult time with some of those obstacles. So really aligning with them and able to help them move through that is very important as the entrepreneur. And so a couple of things that I like to say, and these are foundational items. We could go on and have a whole day discussion about how we build an entrepreneurial culture. But I wanted to pick out a few things that I've found have been very successful with people being entrepreneurial in nature. And so the first thing is being able to work from wherever. Now, for everyone in the room who has a small business, this probably doesn't seem like such a big deal. You're like, what's the big deal to that? The majority of America has to get in transportation of some kind, travel somewhere, deal with smog and traffic and everything else, and the ability to then go into an office that they maybe don't like, and a desk they don't like, with a chair that's uncomfortable, with the heat they don't like, it's too hot, it's too cold, the lighting they don't like, it goes on and on and on, and they don't want to be there, right? So the idea, the concept of being able to work wherever is a big concept. For you guys in this room, it may not be as much. The ability to, I tell people a lot of times, a vendor, go meet your client off-site. Meet them somewhere that's fun. Take them to do something different. Maybe invite them to your office because your office has a ping pong table and theirs doesn't. Whatever it may be, but take them out of that environment. It's a great way to start to connect with someone. It's a great way to be able to really take them out of what is traditionally something they're not enjoying. For the corporate clients, when we talk to them, the idea of changing that environment, of making it something that's more in line with what they're looking for from a culture standpoint is so important. You know, at the end of the day, this is a really cool picture, so I grabbed it, but it doesn't have to be you have to even leave the office. Maybe you just have a place in your office that's productive for you. You know, I have in my office a chair. It's my thinking chair. And I know when I go there, it's my time to think. And I'm able to solve the problems. You know, and I've created environments even within my office that put me in the mindset to be more productive, to produce more results. And so being able to work wherever. So for instance, I happen to sometimes like, we live in the Midwest, I sometimes like getting on the train. I know this sounds silly. I like to get on the train and go somewhere and work on the train. And it's like the best office to me. And that may sound crazy, but for me, it's therapeutic. It allows me just to sit there, do work, I get off, I have lunch, hop on the train, I come back. And it's a great thing. That allows me, that allowing me to work wherever I want, just created 10 hours of productivity that I wouldn't have got sitting in the office, answering the phones, going to a lunch meeting, answering team members' questions. It allows me to escape and create that productivity. And I see some nods because we've all done it, right? There's this thing called Central Park right over here. I walked over there yesterday afternoon, and I was shocked to see how many people were there on their laptops and working, and like, what a great opportunity. That's working whenever you want. I'm not saying you're not going to work. Okay, so that's not what this is about. This is not about you just sit home and mailbox money comes in. That's not what this conversation is about. It's about how do you create the environment for yourself? How do you create the mindset for you and your team to be more successful, more productive? And working where they want is so important. One last story about this. I have multiple clients I work with or have worked with. And they're companies that are digital agencies. They're companies that you would think are pretty forward-thinking from a cultural standpoint. Yet they have rules like no one's allowed to have a laptop. I never understood that one. Or they'll say, well, you know what? I know you're doing digital marketing for the company, or you're in the marketing department. I had a client just tell me this. I can't allow you to work remotely. It's just not going to work. And I see some of you guys saying, huh? But that's what happens day in and day out in corporate America, is that there's this mentality of I can't see you, you're not working, which is really kind of weird to me. But it's something that's so important when you're looking at creating that entrepreneurial identity in your business. Working whenever. So how many people, and I won't, by show of hands, how many people have checked their email before 7 o'clock in the morning? Before 6 o'clock in the morning? How about before 5 o'clock in the morning? Okay. How many have checked their email after 7 p.m. at night? 8 p.m. at night? 11 o'clock? 1 in the morning? All right. My point is, how many people have taken a phone call after normal business hours? Right? We all have. So the idea is it's not necessarily that 9 to 5 anymore, but how do you marry your business? How do you marry your work into your day? This was a hard concept for me to grasp at first. I really, starting out as a lawyer, was like, you go in, you bill your time, you got to do these things. And then I was like, there's people that leave at lunch and go work out. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Oh, that was kind of neat at first, right? They worked till 8 o'clock at night, but they took that time. But they were working whenever they wanted to. Because at the end of it all, they were outcome focused. It didn't make a difference when they worked, as long as they got the result done. Client needs this delivered by next Wednesday at 9 a.m. If you want to do it on Sundays and that's your time to really do it, then great. You can go do whatever you want on Friday. But the idea of being able to work whenever you want, and today in this society with the connectivity, like you can literally run a business with that little iPad there, right? I mean, I was sitting yesterday, we were checking out somewhere, and I was thinking to myself, I could really run a whole company from my phone. Like really you could. From task management to communication to everything. From your phone, you could run a business. Never before in history was that possible. Never before in history. And excuse me, with tools like Slack or Basecamp or other productivity tools, you're able to really start to utilize productivity through connectivity. And so the idea of working whenever you want is, well, for those people in the room, all of you, thank you for acknowledging that you've worked outside of normal business hours. That's not normal for someone else. I can tell you I have a client and they just sent their art director on vacation for a week. Took his laptop and he said, well, I'm not going on vacation. I'm like, you're going to be sitting under a palm tree. That's vacation. So enjoy it. He's like, well, I'm taking my laptop. And he was going to be working remotely, enjoying it. He got to take the kids out to the beach in the morning. The kids hung out by the pool. That's when he did his work. Played with the family the rest of the day. Kids went to bed. He worked at night. He was able to work whenever he wanted. And a lot of us take that for granted. I can tell you the people on the other side of that email, on the other side of that phone call, have no concept of that. So just understand that sometimes, that they have no concept that it almost, your email at 2 in the morning, I think super productive and it's just working when you want, maybe looked at differently by the person receiving it. And that's not a good or a bad thing. Just a lot of people in that environment. I'm speaking to you guys as entrepreneurs because there aren't a lot of core people in the room. The people we're dealing with, the people we're calling on, that huge contract we want to land with, that corporate client or that enterprise level solution we wanted to sell, that's great. Just remember the person on the other side, this is foreign to. You are speaking a foreign language. If they were sitting here right now, they'd be bugging out about some of these things because it just doesn't exist in a lot of those environments. The next one is working on what interests you. And for a lot of people in this room, that's what you get to do already, right? You already do what you love. Remember that slide I said, 62% of people are planning to leave and quit their job in the next 2 years. Because a lot of people don't get to work on what interests them. And one thing I find that's also interesting with entrepreneurs, speaking to the group here, is that as an entrepreneur, a lot of times we just tell, Susie or Bobby, say, come here, I need you to do these 15 things, and just go get them done. I got it, that's important, and you need to do that to run your business. In the same breath, did you find out what Susie and Bob are really good at or what they really want to be doing? Have you asked them what buckets they want to carry up the hill? Okay, there's 5 buckets, and there's 5 of us. Well, if we each carry 1 bucket, we're going to be able to go up the hill. So how do you do that? How are you able to get people working on what interests them? And being able to speak to them and understand and allow them to do that. Again, in a corporate environment, some organizations are really good at this. They have committees or they have different groups you can be in or they let you mirror someone else to be able to learn that. In small business, a lot of times we just say, get whatever we need to get done, put out whatever fires we need to put out, and move on. And I would say, while that is important, how do you do that in a way that keeps that person engaged, allows them to feel ownership, and continue to want to be involved with you, doing what is really passionate to them? And the last one is being able to travel while working. And this is I touched on this a lot when we talked about being able to work when you want and where you want, but this is something that's really big to the millennials. I know it sounds maybe silly to us as entrepreneurs, but to corporate America, the quicker they learn that entrepreneurs can work from anywhere, and especially if you can tell them they're traveling, that may just be taking an Uber and staying at an Airbnb. That's still what they're looking for. And so that's so important, is to be able to work while you're traveling, especially if you're dealing with millennials. That's something that's very important to them. And so being able to provide that for them all goes together very well. So again, we're talking about this concept of entrepreneurship. So what is that again? Remember we talked about being an entrepreneur. This entrepreneurship is being driven by those outcomes. It's being able to stay focused. It's being eternally motivated. It's having the ideal beliefs. And it's dealing with uncertainty. Again, I'm sure everyone in this room as entrepreneurs probably deal with this as much as anyone. And so you understand that one. Now ultimately, my challenge to you guys, and if there were more corporate people in the room, this would probably be a bigger challenge. But even to you, to your organizations, to your team members, to your independent contractors, to your vendors that you work with, my challenge around this would be, are you able to have them work when they want, where they want, and what they want? As the entrepreneur, I ask you that. Are you able to work when you want, where you want, and what you want? Can you do that with your team? I can tell you this is one of the most free and liberating opportunities and experiences you're going to have. I set out a goal a few years ago to do this, and now we do this, and it's amazing. I get to travel with the people I love, and we're working. I get to spend time with family and friends. I get to spend time with my team in places all around the United States. And we work as hard and as diligent than anyone out there, growing businesses and working with companies and producing amazing results. That's my challenge to each one of you is how do you do that in your own lives? How do you do that each day? And how do you take that back to your companies, to your businesses, and do that? That not only for you to be able to work when, where, and what you want, but how do you do that for the people that's working with you while still achieving that goal? So today we covered, the first thing was, we talked about that corporate dilemma. We talked about that struggle, that pull between finding the identity of that corporation and being entrepreneurial. We talked about in this room how we have a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners and that struggle with the vendor or the independent contractor or the team member. How are you able to get them aligned with you? We talked about entrepreneurship, which I think resonated with a lot of you guys in the room. The next thing we talked about was that anatomy. What does it really take? I want to thank you guys for coming out, listening today. Really quick about NASP. NASP is the National Association of Sales Professionals. We have a booth out here right at the end of the hall. You'll see Rick and my smiling faces right when you walk out there. The idea and the concept is that we have an association. We've been around since 1991. We've been bringing sales professionals through our organization and to join them. We offer an assessment to them that allows them to understand where they're currently at and where they ideally would like to go. And based on that, we offer some coaching to them as well. For those who are interested, we also have a package that is a certified training program where sales professionals can get into the program. They can go through, and some of the things I talked about being entrepreneurial, about being able to grow, about being able to transform who you are, your mindset, your identity. Those are the type of things we really focus on in our programs, is to work with sales organizations as they continue to grow, to work with entrepreneurial organizations as they continue to grow. So I don't know how I'm on time, but without any further ado, I'm good? Perfect. Awesome. So thank you so much, everyone.